Welcome back to For the Love of Men. We are your hosts. My name is Brianna Mosier and my co-host Courtney Shand. And the intention of this show is to bring together men and women in harmony and help them honor each other's energetic, masculine, and feminine cores. We have a really juicy episode for you around discerning wounded feminine versus empowered feminine, and you guys are going to love it. We're going to give you all kinds of examples. But first, Courtney, tell the people who you are, what your magic is in the world. Tell us all about you.
Yeah. So my name is Courtney Shand.
Oh my gosh, wait.
I specialize... Oh, yeah.
You need to wear your crown.
How's the crown back,
She let
girl?
me wear her crown to do the intro because I got a little flustered. So
it's amazing the amount of confidence that comes from this crown.
Yeah, good thing I have a natural one.
After I shared mine with you, I will take that back.
Just kidding, I love you. All right. So Courtney, tell everyone why you're an amazing goddess queen human that I love.
Thank you. Yeah, my name's Courtney. Lots of giggles, lots of girl giggles. My name's Courtney Shand. I actually mentor women that are wanting to be more expressive in their feminine energy. We really work on healing their relationship to masculine energy in order to get there. We're going to talk about it a lot in this episode, so I'm super excited about this one. But right now I am leading a group of women, so I'm excited for that. That's going to start in December. You can find out all about it on CourtneyShand.com or find me on Facebook or Instagram. Instagram. I sound like I've been hanging out with my parents.
What's that called?
The Instantgram. On Instagram at Courtney_Shand.
Yes.
What about you, Brie?
What about me?
What about you? You've got all kinds of stuff going.
Oh, thanks. Similar magic in the world, but
Yes.
different.
But amazingly different and complementary. That's what I love about working with you, is that we are like coming from two totally different angles to the same point, and it just works. All the gaps get filled in, and it is beautiful.
I agree.
Oh,
It's just two perfect puzzle pieces.
it really,
Couldn't be more flawless.
magical.
So anyway, Courtney got me in such a giggly mood before this with her jokes, and now you guys get to listen to it. You can thank Courtney. My magic in the world, I work with really driven, ambitious, usually entrepreneur women who, similar to Courtney, might present as masculine for a number of reasons, but desire to be in their feminine, both in their business, and they want an empowered masculine partner. They want to play the feminine and own their feminine in their relationships. So that is most of my work, with a lot of work around pleasure and manifestation and owning your sexuality. And it's just really great. I love what I do. So much fun. You told the people
so
you're
encouraging. You're such a good coach.
Thank you. Did you tell the people your Instantgram?
My
You
Instantgram, I did.
So my Instantgram is at Building Brie, BRI, and my website is as buildingbrie.com as well. And there's info around programs and how to work with me and all the things there. Let's get into it.
Yeah.
Let's tell the people what changed our lives.
Oh my gosh, you guys, I'm so excited about this. I've been thinking about it all day. Brie picked me up from the airport because I was like, we have to do this right now. I just flew in and she picked me up, and now we're recording.
We need to go home and record right now.
Right now, yeah. So super excited about this. Do you want to start? What wounded feminine? What is it? Where does it come from?
Yeah, so wounded feminine energy can be a number of different things, but really a woman's wounded energy is coming out when she doesn't have her own empowered masculine energy online holding her. So she's some things that might show up as flaky, not making decisions, not being reliable. She might be passive aggressive, damsel in distress mode, feeling helpless, overly emotional, not to be mistaken for honoring and feeling your emotions, but overly making them mean everything, completely collapsing, not pulling yourself through them. Petty, catty, can be, I would say judgmental, can often be in the wounded feminine. So those would be some of the characteristics. And yeah, would you add anything to that characteristics list?
I think that's a pretty good list, and I think a really big one that I see is just kind of like a little bit flighty, like having a hard time finding their navigating life. A little bit I mean, the feminine naturally is going to feel their way through things, but just like kind of grasping for anything, they're going to be more likely to latch on to like kind of all or nothing wounded marketing in that way, because they don't have like a shape, or they're sort of blurry in their boundaries.
Yeah.
They're not like a clear individual.
Which
Not
is...
that that's a... Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, go on.
It's just part of their development. That's kind of like where they are in their stage of development. But that's kind of how I see them when they find me.
In that almost like shapeless, like taking on other people.
Mm-hmm. Shape-shifting kind of. Yeah.
Because of a lot of the codependency. So being codependent is so last week we talked about the extreme end of wounded masculine is narcissistic. Not to be confused with having narcissistic tendencies. It's very different than NPD. And the extreme end of wounded feminine is the severe codependent, boundaryless, letting people walk all over her, expecting other people to bend and pretzel for her too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Such a good point, because when you're not able to assert for yourself, you assume that other people are like that too, and you actually kind of like underhandedly pull them into what you're needing. Instead of clearly asking, hey, will you pick me up from the airport? It's like, hey, so I, need to get home, and
Right.
I would pick you up.
Guilt trip.
Okay.
So. Or, it's fine, I'm fine, it doesn't matter. Passive aggressiveness.
Ooh, yeah.
She's not getting her way. There'll be manipulation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a really clear indicator that there's been some injury to the feminine. Yeah. Which leads us into where it comes from.
Yeah.
You want to go deeper in that? Okay.
Go deeper. Take it. Tell us where it comes from.
So in my experience, the feminine energy, when it is wounded, oftentimes, and I don't want to say that it's a, like blame the parents kind of thing, but it tends to be like a repetitive injury that happens, or like one really like traumatic event that they just kind of crumble. It usually has to do with this empowered masculine energy never coming online. So the masculine energy is kind of the container that scaffolds the feminine energy as it is being built up, in my experience. So when that's not actually happening, and she's never building these internal structures that are going to be her support system inside, the fluidity of the feminine energy, it's kind of like, like nailing Jello to a tree is a southern saying that we have. Bree's not from the South, but maybe.
I love when my friends from the South say southern things.
But, like just really, there's things that you just can't do. It's just too fluid. So that's where the wounded feminine is going to come online, because they don't have this agency that's being built up in themselves. And again, it's not necessarily to blame parents or partners, but those chronic experiences of never having that reflected, or like being taught how to build themselves up from the inside, that's a skill. That's a skill that I teach my women. I know you teach your women that too, to learn how to hold your emotions. That's a skill that we just chronically are not taught, I think, in our society. That's an undervalued skill. Anything to add there?
Yeah. I think, like, in my experience, when I was in my most wounded feminine, I wouldn't say that I grew up with an environment of having wounded feminine displayed, or a severe enmeshment or codependency, but I would say I didn't have good boundaries, and so it made it very easy. When you're in your wounded feminine place, a lot of the time it can feel like, I just want someone to save me, I wish someone would take control, and it's easy when you're early in masculine feminine work to see a man who is in his masculine, even though it's wounded, and still be attracted to it. Because a wounded masculine man will come in and be like, you want someone to take control? I will take control of everything.
Yeah, babe.
Like, say no more. And so and I'm sure some of our listeners can relate to this, my most wounded self was when I was in that dynamic. And I started learning that I didn't phrase it like this at the time, but what I now see is, in order to survive, I have to bend and pretzel and anticipate this person's needs, so that I don't have the repercussion of whatever it might be, emotional, physical abuse, whatever it is. So I almost developed it like a skill set of survival. Anticipate everyone's needs, be super empathetic, be very compassionate, let yourself go, self-abandon, don't speak up. And for me, it developed later in life. And then I had to do all this undoing of that and coming back into my power. So yeah, I think that's another scenario of how it can happen too.
Yeah. I do see, that's, I think what I mentioned earlier of like, it can be parents, it can be partners, but it does seem to be more of a chronic chipping away.
Yes.
Than like, I think the wounded masculine in my experience is more of like, it can be just like a fatal blow that is enough to set that spiral in motion. And that I'm sure has a chronic version as well. But I think the feminine, it's a little bit trickier just because it does seem to be kind of using our skills against us, or our natural, like, innate gifts against us.
You mean our innate, like, warmth and desire for connection and
yeah, like we're kind of we're like more malleable in that way naturally, and I think that's where it gets sticky because we don't see these things coming, and so it's kind of like we let them go too far. Maybe a better way to say that.
Right.
So before we know it, then we're like, oh man.
Yeah, when are you
disappeared.
Right. When are you being conscientious? It's something you and I have been talking about a lot. Versus self-abandoning.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so important. And this is something, correct me if I'm wrong, but you and I both still navigate that territory of healthy or codependent right now. Am I compromising or am I self-abandoning? It's
or am I just reading too far into this?
Or am I just overthinking it?
Girl brain.
Probably.
There we go.
So I notice wounded feminine to me. I always know my wounded feminine's being activated when I'm getting sucked into drama.
Yeah.
When I start going, in the past it would be like, well, why hasn't he texted me back? And I wonder what he's doing. And why would she say that sort of thing? And was she thinking this about me or was she thinking that about me? And should I do it? Should I not? It just doesn't feel clear. It feels so flighty and all over the place. There's no direction and your emotions kind of run haywire. And you feel like someone else is in your body and you can't get control of it.
Yeah. Yes, that's exactly what it is. It's almost like you have, that like the diffuse awareness, the like multi-point focus happening, but you're in other people's experiences. Like you have like tendrils coming out where you're able to tap in and like feel all these different things. And I know you're more empathetic and more sensitive as a person. I hope that's not oversharing, but and I am too, that like we have this ability to like feel other people's energy and other people's experience, and when they're angry I can feel it, and when they're tense I can feel it, and so like my body registers it too, and that's been my experience, is when you don't have those boundaries, the outgoing boundaries sometimes are the ones that are the trickiest, because they're the ones that keep you from going way over there and kind of tapping into like their world and their experience.
And then making it your own.
And then making it your problem.
Your responsibility to fix them and shapeshift for them.
Yeah.
And you often give your power away. When you're in wounded feminine, it's a lot of just handing your power to have how you feel. And by that I mean how you feel is determined by how other people behave. So you're not in your power in those moments if someone else's behavior is determining how you feel. You get to have your natural response and reaction, of course. But it's always pulled back into you and your sovereignty. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I think the agency piece is what you're saying is like to have the agency and the like sovereignty to say, this is not mine and I don't want to be here right now.
Right. Yes.
Yeah, and do something about it.
Yeah.
And that kind of gets stripped away, so you're kind of just left defenseless.
Yes. Yeah. So how does it happen? Sometimes there's role models in family. Sometimes it's relationship experiences. I feel like that's pretty complete, do you?
Yeah. I do think the best example or the best like explanation of this came from Leah Lake in explaining that it's actually, this one is often inherited, just generationally. We have seen this enough. Of women experiencing this through the years. Like this was the whole wave of feminism, was to flip the tables on this feeling that we've been trying to outrun for years. I'll talk about it later. I don't want to talk about it at this moment, but yeah, I think that's pretty
clean.
pretty clean.
So you're saying part of it is ancestral too?
I think so.
Yeah. I would
Yeah,
agree.
I think so. There's something in our kind of lineage and in our just DNA structure that, you know, and I don't know if that's that we are just more adaptable as the feminine version
Yeah.
of survival, but it's interesting. Interesting to play around with those thoughts.
Definitely. I think that, how do you recognize it? I mean, I feel like we've really covered that already.
Yeah.
We had some set questions for you guys to keep ourselves organized
Yeah.
for our own feminine, but I think we've covered how do you recognize it. You feel the drama, you feel the pull, you feel pulled into other people, you feel self-abandoning, overwhelmed, usually, directionless, passive-aggressive is a big one.
Yeah, I would say the two biggest ones for me when I experience my wounded feminine being activated, or even when I observe it in other people, is the overwhelm, the sense of like, oh, there's just too much on my plate right now. Because that leads us straight to needing to be rescued. Or if they're in that rescuer role, which helps us kind of re-experience a sense of power, but it's not our power, it's coming in to save someone else.
Yeah.
So that we don't have to deal with that feeling of being overwhelmed.
Totally.
So that and being flighty, that's the other one where it's just kind of like hard to nail down, like, do we want to hang out? Do we not want to hang out? What's happening? I don't know.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think what's interesting with codependency is there are two sides to the coin, like you were kind of starting to talk about, right? The one side is hoping that somebody will jump in and fix you and save you and take all your problems away. But what I find in my line of work most often, working with really driven women who are entrepreneurs running amazing businesses, is the opposite side of codependency, which is I'm so capable and I'm so empowered and I'm going to put everyone in my, to use Leah's term, lifeboat. I'm going to save everyone. Oh, you're having trouble with money? Oh, get in my lifeboat. I'll help you. Oh, you're struggling with this? Tell me all about it. I'll take care of it. I'll fix it. That's still codependency without boundaries. And it's usually driven by some disempowered energy, maybe needing to earn love and approval. That's not coming from a healthy, open-hearted place. It's coming from a place of unclean energy. So
Yeah, I'm so glad you said that. Definitely.
yeah, I think it might be helpful, if you're down for this, Courtney, to give some examples of, I pulled this up for us too. What this actually looks like when someone is passive aggressive or helpless or people pleasing. That's wounded feminine. Do you have any examples that come to mind?
Oh, well, I was a expert, am still a recovering expert people pleaser. So I will take that one.
Great. Tell us.
This one shows up still for me if I'm not aware of it. Like, and this, I do want to mention that I think that we can be very hyper focused on healing these wounds, and that can create its own source of injury.
Wounding.
Yeah. So like this is meant to be like a snapshot of where you are right now, just observing your general patterns. It's not meant to like send you with a magnifying glass into your inner world and like dredge up everything. That's going to overwhelm you even more. But I say that to say I still notice myself exhibiting some of these patterns, and I'm aware of it, and I catch it and do something different in that moment. That's the difference to me of growth. That's how you continue to grow and continue to integrate this information. So people pleasing for me still shows up when I know in my gut, I don't want to do that. But the way that I kind of manipulate myself is like, but they're going to get their feelings hurt if I don't. Or how would you feel if you were on the other side? I like use my own empathy against myself in that moment. And I'm like, it's okay. I'm fine. I can deal with it. I trust that I'll be okay. I need to show up for them and be, like go with the flow or be with the game plan a little bit more than being assertive.
So it's almost valuing other people's emotions more than your own.
Yeah.
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 It's funny because I think our society pedestals that like it's a good thing.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And that is consistently the reason I do it is because it has consistently paid off. People have been like, oh, you are so sweet. You're just
generous.
So kind. Yeah. And of course, like that feels good to hear. And when you're in your wounded energies and you're just looking for points, you know, to
Love, approval,
yeah, to
safety.
refill your tank. Like when you're not aware of these things, you're going after these things for good reason.
Mm-hmm.
It's when you become aware of it, you can find other ways to fill that tank, and you don't have to rely on these things. In my current knowledge.
Totally. Yeah, that's a great example. I'm glad we brought up people pleasing because that's really important. Let's see, what's another good example of this? I mean, easy, passive aggressive. This used to be my strategy because it was what was modeled to me. It was what I knew. If something's wrong, the idea of telling someone, hey, this really bothered me, can we talk about it, was like foreign to me. This was years ago, but the default would have been to stew about it and let
yes,
them...
there has to be stewing with the wounded feminine. She has to stew for a while before that erupts.
Yes. So I would stew about it, and when I was ready to talk about it, oh, this is so embarrassing. I'm not proud of these moments. This was years ago. When I was ready to talk about it, it would be to let them observe my stewing. Thank you, Courtney's passing me her crown. I really have earned it, I swear. So the pattern would be, I'm going to stew about this, and then when I want to talk to you about it, I'm going to go stew in front of you.
Oh, that's a good one.
It's really manipulative.
Brilliant.
I love you, past Brie, for trying to get your needs met.
Yeah, that's a brilliant strategy.
And then inevitably, whoever it was would say, hey, what's wrong? Nothing. I'm fine. It's fine.
It's fine.
And you slightly like set things down louder, or you have a pouty face on and they feel your energy. And it's just terrible behavior because it's so unhealthy toward the other person. And I will say I know I sound like I'm judging and shaming myself, and there might be a little of that, but there's a lot of love for past Brie just didn't know how to get her needs met and didn't know how to communicate her emotions, and that's what that was. So if you're hearing this and you're realizing you do that too, I would show you. Yeah, show yourself the same love. Like, you just do the best you can to get your needs met, and you know what you know. You don't know what you don't know. So, passive aggressiveness is not effective. It's just manipulation, and honestly, it causes so much resentment and unclean energy and bitterness in relationships. It's not worth it. But it's out of protection. You know, you're trying to keep control and maintain the upper hand. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you for letting me wear your crown.
Yeah, you needed it. That's fine. And it feels really, when you're in that space, maybe to lend a little compassionate light, when you're in that space, it does seem like the best approach because they need to know that you're hurt, but you feel too fragile to reveal it. Because it takes a lot of empowered energy to reveal your heart. And we'll talk about that towards the end of the episode. But like, there is a structure that kind of has to fall in place for you to be able to say, I feel hurt.
Ouch.
Yeah.
I felt like X when you did Y.
Yeah. Yeah, and if that happens often enough and you're not able to say it, then of course you're going to be so shut down that you won't have plenty of options to work with. So that was a good one for past Brie.
Past Brie really did well. And I think when you're in those places, it's just learned pattern. Like, if you've spoken up before and used your voice and been met in unhealthy ways, it is going to be like fighting yourself to open up, to say those things. That's something I still sometimes am like, we're going to breathe into this. We're going to say the thing anyway. Because there's a part of your body that can anticipate someone shutting you down, even when your mind knows that person won't, you know?
Yeah. And I'm so glad you said that.
Yeah. What else on our list of examples of the ways the wounded feminine will manipulate and show up?
Yeah. Ooh, this is a good one. The no follow through. This one is, I see it a lot. And in myself too, I'll go ahead and own that, and I think it comes from a place of overwhelm. They say yes to so many people or so many things that they get overwhelmed, and then things either fall off their plate or they realize that they don't actually have the desire to do that. And so it takes a lot of effort when you don't have the desire being the fuel for the effort. And so the lack of follow through, like saying you're going to come to a party and then you don't, or saying you want to meet up and then you don't, or let's go on another date and then you just ghost them. Like, it's an easier route to get out of things by just playing the overwhelm card and not taking the accountable action. I see this with people with their diet. I see it in dating. I see this one a lot, and myself too. Like, there's only so many things that I can accomplish in a day, and sometimes I will notice that I have to move things down my to-do list. But that's why I have to write it down, or else I will fall back into that pattern of flitting off
Yeah.
into the middle of nowhere.
Like overcommitting
Yeah.
to people please.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. No shame. I do that sometimes.
I get that. I relate to that too.
Yeah.
There's
I'm getting a lot better. I'm really being quite vulnerable, I feel like, because I'm growing a lot, and I just want to be transparent, because this is how you get to grow too. This is how I've grown from seeing mentors be very transparent with me. So
examples. That's always the feedback I get from my clients, is that they're thankful for the examples, because it's one thing to say codependent, and it's another thing to hear an example and go, I can see myself in that. I do that. Yeah. It's important. And again, no shame or judgment on yourself. Like, have compassion. You only know what you know. But correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think there's one of these wounded feminine characteristics that you or I haven't been in at some point.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So, yes, we are on the other side of this, like fully owning our crowns that we've earned in empowered feminine, and we did earn them.
Yeah.
Like,
ooh, talk about that.
We had our own wounded stuff to clean up to get to a place, and it took radical honesty and looking at ourselves with compassion and love, and also, okay, and I love you, and we're going to shift this behavior.
And because I love you, I want better.
Yeah. And because truly being in your wounded feminine, you think you're getting your needs met, but there's so much pain and drama and anxiety when you're in that place. It's just all you know. So I hope that this episode, as we continue, helps you get clarity on how to shift yourself into your empowered. The liberation and the level of ease that I feel because of those shifts, unparalleled to any other time in my life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It does make things so much easier when you can just go at things more cleanly.
Yes. Instead of trying to gain love and approval and acceptance and all these things through manipulative ways and control other people and the outcome. And God, it's just so stressful. Like, it's so stressful. Yeah.
Yeah. Because I will say there's a certain there's a certain quality to the feminine that you don't have an outcome guarantee. And that is part of being feminine. Yeah. That you get to just see it as it unfolds in real time. And these wounded, or these injuries are kind of, in my experience, meant to protect you from each of those experiences unfolding. We think that we're going to protect ourselves from getting X, Y if we do A, B. But what we end up doing is driving ourselves straight into that experience. And in the meantime, being miserable because we have been so anxious and wrapped up with like trying to fix it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you're going to have the unknown either way. It's just learning how to deal with it in a state of more
Stability.
power and agency that we get to talk about.
There's one more I want to talk about too.
Yeah.
Feel free if you have more coming up, but
I could talk for
this
days
is really
about this
important.
stuff. This is,
Judging other women and bringing them down with cattiness and objectifying them. And I think every woman can say that she's been here. We could do a whole episode, Court, on objectifying, but my understanding, I can't remember where we learned this from, is that we objectify people and make them one-dimensional in order to make them bite-sized so our egos don't get threatened. Like, a woman cannot possibly be sexually empowered and beautiful and successful and wealthy and have healthy relationships. She must be evil underneath, right? She must, her shoes though. She gets lip injections. She's a pick-me girl. Clearly, she needs everyone to like her. And it's like, why? Because our brains can't cope with a woman just being awesome all around. Yeah. Right? Yeah. So it's a lot of sisterhood wounding. I think where we are right now, there's a lot of sisterhood wounding between women, not really honoring or seeing each other, and instead bringing each other down and looking at, she isn't that successful at work, but she's single. Oh, she's so successful. Yeah, but she's single. She can't be happy. It's so much like cattiness because our egos can't handle it, that somebody could be so great and pure and loving, you know?
Yeah. Wow. That's such a good point, because a lot of times we project the things that we feel insecure about that are being poked
Yeah.
by seeing her success. Instead of cleaning it up on our side, we're like, oh, well.
Yes. Let me find the one thing about her.
Yeah.
So I can pull her down and make her bite-sized.
Yeah.
Or one-dimensional.
Yeah, and it does take a certain amount of, you have to, I think Pia Melody said, Pia Melody? Anyways, I think she said, like, there's a boundary, an internal boundary where you kind of have to, like, suck in a little bit to get close to someone else to see them. And so, like, you actually do have to, like, hold yourself when you're seeing someone in their fullness, too. Because otherwise you kind of, like, spill out all of your perception of them instead of seeing them accurately. And that when we don't see people accurately, we can't celebrate them, and we can't, because we feel too threatened. You know?
Totally.
Does that make sense how I said that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. You have to almost not take yourself out of it for a moment, but not let yourself get all triggered and wrapped up in it, and just see them as a human.
Yeah, like you feel so supported, not like suck in, like I'm gonna go away.
Play
Or
small.
yeah.
I hear you.
Thanks.
Yeah, so I think that's a big part of wounded feminine too, is bringing other women down and going into this sisterhood wound. Anything else you want to touch on for examples of wounded feminine?
Oh gosh, you got some good ones here.
Thank you.
I do. I think this is the impulsivity piece that I wanted. I get it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. This is going to play out specifically. The examples I see, this plays out in people with their diet. This plays out in people as well with when they meet someone and they want it all their way. It's almost this like childlike energy. It's not like a healthy, like I want it and I'm going to ask for it and I assume I'm going to get it with confidence. It's this is the cheat day mentality in the diet world. Like having this, it's okay, I'll deal with it tomorrow. Like I'll deal with the consequences later. I kind of ignore the natural consequences because I just want it now. The desire is too great to manage. So
Yeah.
any thoughts there?
Yeah, that's a really
Feel
good
free
point.
to disagree, but
I want it and I want it now. I see women go into this with manifestation a lot. They have an income goal. They want to hit $30,000 months or something. And they're like, but I've been putting in the work and I've been doing the things. And why isn't it here? I need to have it. And they almost have like a temper tantrum with the universe. And like, you realize, I love you. And that's not an empowered energy. This is a demanded, wounded feminine energy. And so the universe is an empowered masculine energy, right? That wants to provide and protect. So we're not actually going to be in a mode to receive what we want when we're in that temper tantrum mode. But they do get kind of like entitled. We can get kind of entitled about, well, I should have the money. I should have the clients by now. Like, why isn't the universe dropping it in? Yeah.
yeah. Oh, so like the earning.
Yeah. Could be.
Okay. Yeah, like I did X and now I deserve Y, but not in an empowered way.
Right. It's entitled.
Yeah.
The other one I want to talk about too is, I don't know if you've had this experience, but I love to people watch when I go out and get drinks.
I get in trouble all the time.
Why?
Because my face shows, I get this from my mom. I love you, Mom. And Julian just pointed out the other day,
no.
You can just read what's on your face. Like what's going through your brain is what's on your face. And I'm like, oh no.
It's because you're good at revealing your heart now. You're expressive.
But when people see it, they feel judged. And I'm like, oh no. Because I'm just staring at them with fascination. Okay.
You're wounded, empowered, masculine, same. I notice when I go out for drinks or go out to the bar, some of the places that I frequent, depending on the friends I go out with, can be younger, like 20-something crowds. Not that age has anything to do with it, but if we generalize for a moment, right? You've got a lot of young 20-year-olds. So I often see there'll be a few people who will bounce around and I want this guy to give me attention and he won't give me attention. Oh, I'll go get attention from him. Oh, they won't give me attention. I'm going to go stand up here on the bar and make a scene and do all these things to get attention. And this isn't from clean energy. Let me just say there's nothing wrong with bouncing around, talking to men and dancing on the bar if you're having fun and it's empowered and it's like for you.
Yeah.
But doing it attention seeking and trying to get approval from other people is now unclean energy. And you can see, like I've noticed women get progressively more uncomfortable and disgruntled and kind of collapsing into themselves if they're not getting the attention that they're seeking from all these random strangers at a bar. And it's easy to say, I think that woman might be in her wounded feminine right now. And again, no judgment, love and honor. It's just an observation that I've started to notice more often. Yeah.
This is a great point to say this, that the way out and the advice that we would give to someone when they're empowered sounds like the total opposite advice to someone when they're in their wounded energies.
Yeah. So can you say that again, please? That's really important.
Yeah, this is like the takeaway of the show.
So important. Please listen up.
The advice in the dating world is going to be total opposites for someone who is in their wounded energy as someone who's in an empowered state.
Yes.
And that is so important because we are talking about, in their wounded energies, the route out is the same. It is to get into that empowered state. But if you were to take an empowered, quote unquote, strategy and apply it in a wounded way, it is going to backfire, and it's not going to help you move forward. It's not going to help the partner move forward. It's really going to kind of shoot yourself in the foot. It's not helpful at all. And it really is going to be unclean on our part if we were sending you out with that information, because we're setting you up to not do well.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think another way to say it is, if you were working with Courtney or I, the advice that we would give you would be significantly different based on the stage you were in from the continuum of wounded to empowered feminine.
Yeah.
When I'm working with a woman who's really in her wounded and wanting to shift, how I coach her is very different than a woman who's in her empowered and wanting to learn to stay in her empowered, right? And go from a place of expansion.
Yeah. Yeah.
Can you think of an example off the top of your head to paint this picture for them? And it's kind of putting you on the spot.
Boy, we had one.
If you can't think of one, I have something.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
I'll riff off you.
Yeah, perfect. I'll give you the layup.
Yeah.
Sports reference number, numero uno.
One for today, I think? Yep.
Yeah. 2
We
points.
have to have one at least.
So 2 points for me. Now, what was I going to say?
Yay, Bree!
I'm on the scoreboard.
Way to go.
Was that 3 references? I don't know. What was the point again?
When you're in your wounded energy. I just want to say before you give the example of what it would sound like to coach from the wounded energy, because we say that, again, to go back to, it's just to take a snapshot of awareness of where you are on this spectrum.
Yeah.
Because we can't give across the board information. It is a spectrum. So the first thing is to take inventory of where you find yourself so that you can get out of or stay where you are.
So true.
Whatever fits best for you.
So true. Yeah, and this podcast the aim is for you to look at where you are and get really honest. But again, this is information, and if you want support and specifics around where you are, highly encouraged to come into some sort of coaching container, be it with Courtney or I. We would love that. Or somebody else that you resonate with. It's great to have someone objectively support you in these and help hold you accountable in that way. Okay, so what was I saying?
Wounded. What's an example of a
an
wounded
example
strategy versus...
I just wrote about this today, actually. I think I sent it out to my email list. If a man is being distant in his communication in the early stages of dating, a wounded energy might be like, oh, well, he's clearly not being consistent and I'm going to cut him off because I deserve better than this, blah, blah, blah. Even though on the inside, she's like, I really wish I could get to know him more and I just feel like he's rejecting me and I want to reject him first because I'm trying to protect myself. So the action is cutting him off, but the energy is all kinds of protection and fear of rejection and shrinking herself and not speaking her truth. An empowered woman might, quote unquote, cut somebody off, but it will be from a place of like, yeah, I mean, we're just not aligned and I can tell and he's not being consistent. I'm not willing to go in a place where I'm pulling him up by his bootstraps. I'm not really that invested to have a conversation and communicate my needs. So I'm going to let it go. The action is the same. You're releasing this man. The energy is very different.
Yeah, such a great point. Because the tendency would be to want to pull him along.
Yes.
And that's also a really good indicator of the wounded, the injured feminine energy will start to pull. It feels, and I think Leah Lake is the one that first explained this to me, when you're in a dynamic, it will feel like someone is pulling you. And if you're not like energetically sensitive, it will, it'd be like someone grabbing your jacket and like pulling you forward.
Yeah.
Usually it's through guilt or
Right.
manipulation or something like that. But you'll just have this weird feeling of like, I'm off balance and I don't quite know what it is.
Yes. Yeah. I was just talking through this distant communication scenario with a client of mine today, and I was explaining it to her like, when you feel more solid in your empowered feminine, I would definitely encourage you to just release these men that aren't meeting your standards. But I think right now, the growing edge for you is actually to fade him out and honor your emotions and speak your truth for the sake of speaking it. And out of respect for yourself, saying, hey, I've noticed communication is dropping off. I really love getting to know you. What are your thoughts? What's going on? And open the space for communication instead of just cutting off by. Her growing edge would be to speak her truth, versus an empowered woman might not need that practice. She knows she can do that already. She doesn't have to have that conversation.
Such a good point. Wow. And such a good like milestone for women to know where they are in their growth process too.
Yes.
Like it's just as much about knowing where you are to begin with, and also these milestones of like, okay, this is a good thing. Like this means I'm growing. This is, something I would have been scared of, but I'm actually going to see it as, yay, I did it.
Right.
I did it and I'm growing. So I love that you said that.
Yeah. Yeah. So hopefully this show gives you a marker of where you fall. Yeah.
That is a good point. I'm trying to think back to the examples that because we go back and forth all week when we're not recording.
So many voice
Oh,
notes.
here's an example. We need to talk about this. And I need to write them down. I think that's such a good one. Communication when you're in a wounded space versus an empowered space is going to be one of the biggest ways that you'll see this play out. Because instead of, like you were saying, letting him go, or even like asking for what you need, like today, like having to ask, hey, will you come pick me up at the airport? Revealing your vulnerability of like, hey, this is the situation I'm in, this is how I'm feeling about it, can you do this, or how can you contribute, is a very like vulnerable ask, but it takes a lot of empowered energy to do that instead of like going around the conversation or trying to like get you to be inspired. That's another one that I see a lot in the dating industry, is like inspire him to step up and meet your needs. And I have to be really aware to not use that language when I'm talking about setting men up for success when you're asking for your needs to be met, because it will inspire him naturally, because men naturally want to step up and meet your needs.
Yeah.
But when you're doing it for the intention of inspiring him, you've missed the point.
You're attached and trying to control the outcome.
Yeah, the point is to speak your needs.
Yeah. Yes.
And to hopefully be in a partnership where your partner naturally wants to meet your needs, and that you've given him the green light and the location of where to go. That's the point.
Right.
You're not trying to, I will claim this, I used to try to inspire men to do these things. And looking back, I'm like, wow. So it really didn't actually work. They were kind of like confused and perplexed, but they were taking action. They just didn't know where to go.
That's so interesting. I'm glad that you shared that. And I see how it could be a fine line between manipulating and inspiring. I think maybe the difference would be you be in your empowered feminine because it brings you more peace and security and feels better to you, versus being in your empowered feminine to get a man to do something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Needs have solutions. And you can tell when they've been met. That's usually a good indicator. Like when people are, like if a woman's asking, like for her needs to be met, you will know pretty quickly that this need is being met, because it feels like when you're hungry and you eat, when you're tired and you sleep, like the need is being met, and it's a pretty immediate feedback loop. In my experience.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Definitely.
Squirrel.
We
Sidetrack there.
squirreled. Any more examples? I feel like we've covered this.
Yeah, I think we've really given some
juicy ones.
Yeah.
All right, so let's shift into empowered feminine then. Yeah?
Yes.
Courtney, you're wearing the crown, literally. If this is your first episode, guys, Courtney is wearing a crown. I haven't ordered mine yet. I need to.
That's okay.
Courtney has her crown on, and she's going to tell you about what empowered feminine energy looks like.
Yeah.
and feels like.
Empowered feminine energy is the state of being where you are enjoying life. Like, I think of it kind of like, the top of Maslow's hierarchy. Like, that is very much the empowered feminine energy. This is where your creativity is going to come online. You're able to feel safe enough in getting your like survival needs met enough with enough frequency and enough volume to be able to relax and observe things with a different view. You start to notice the pleasure in life. You start to notice joy. You start to experience more free flowing emotions. You start to connect with people more easily. You see things lining up synchronistically. It's just like this higher level of life, like turned up. The volume is just turned up. The brightness is turned up. And I say that to say it's not like this magical wonderland either. It's a very like real, tangible, day-to-day feeling too. I don't want to paint this like ethereal hilltop kind of viewpoint. Anything you want to add to that? You're so good at empowered feminine work.
Thank you for saying that.
Yeah.
I think you did a great job setting it up.
I'm sure more will come out. I want to just invite you into the conversation.
Yeah, I think a part of your genius and magic in the world is helping women have their own internal empowered masculine come online, which is what creates space for empowered feminine to come out. So that's when a woman can really radiate and receive and reveal her heart and be in her body and be present and play and be the muse and the fun and the light and the beingness without the need to do all the time. She's secure. You know, it's so fun.
I'm getting so charged up.
I know, me too. And a lot of my work is around, as you said, pleasure, like teaching women how to play in the orgasmic current of life and embrace their sensuality, their sexuality, because they're so supported from the inside out, which is a big part of your genius in the world. So
thank you.
I think it makes sense for you to tell the people, what does it look like when a woman has her empowered masculine supporting her?
Ooh, thank you. Thank you. This is like my...
She loves this question.
Yeah, this is like my juiciness. So I have this beautiful picture. My mentor taught me that, the empowered feminine is like the lighthouse, the light on the top of the lighthouse, the masculine being the structure that is supporting it being seen out in the world, more bright, more brilliant, and drawing the things to it. And when I heard that, I did ballet when I was young. There's a lift in partner ballet where the man is lifting the partner and she is just kind of like elegantly draped over his hand. And her chest is like wide open and she's just like reaching. And to me, it is like the epitome of the partnership between the empowered masculine energy to the empowered feminine energy. Because in my experience, when the masculine energy is online and kind of building that support from within, the empowered feminine energy gets to shine. The empowered feminine energy actually has to have a certain amount of space and safety to come online, in my experience. Correct?
Agreed.
Yeah. So if you're not feeling safe on like a survival level, and this is why I talk a lot about instincts and survival energy as it relates to masculine energy, because the masculine energy is the structure that keeps her safe enough to open. It's like she cannot blossom and shine and be elegant and radiant and enjoy things if her body is like fearing on a survival level. That wasn't quite the question you asked me. I wanted to circle back around because I can go off on a tangent on really this. Excited. I get really excited about this. What does it feel like when the masculine energy is?
What does it feel like or look like when a woman has her empowered masculine online?
Yeah. So the process that I take a lot of clients through is growing from the child energy to the empowered feminine energy through that masculine energy. And the way that comes online is actually to turn all of these conscious thoughts. We start to change. It's kind of like self-talk, but it's kind of purposely talking to ourselves differently. So starting to acknowledge that part of us that does feel more vulnerable, having these conversations happening internally where we're cheering for ourselves, we're holding ourselves, we're seeing ourselves, and we're so good typically as women, we're just innately, I think, the more capable sex. Sorry guys, you guys are wired for really great things in other ways, but we're just able to see people on a more emotional, sensitive level. and I don't want to say that across the board either. I'm not trying to offend anybody, but
Sure.
That I'm saying that because that gets turned outward most of the time, and we forget that there's a whole inner world happening, and we want ideally to have kind of one eye turned in and one eye able to see what's happening, so so that we're not being sideswiped while we're going inside and kind of like absorbed in our own world, which we can do, and we're not overly invested in other people. We have kind of this balance effect happening. So our masculine energy is actually coming in and cheering for the parts of us that need to be held, that need to be supported. This can be through setting boundaries. This can look like hiring a coach. This can look like hiring a therapist. It can look like paying for a massage, cooking yourself a nice dinner.
Setting a boundary.
Setting a boundary. These things, these acts of self-care are actually very masculine in nature. But they're necessary for the feminine to feel safe enough to open.
Yeah.
So I feel like I've got 1,000 things to say about this, but I've been talking for a while, so I want to check back in with you.
No. It's so great. Yeah. And for me, what always resonates is when you're in your wounded feminine, it's because your empowered masculine isn't online. So a woman is flighty and non-committal and there's no follow-through when she doesn't have her empowered masculine there to make commitments and hold them and help her follow them through. A woman collapsed into herself, being all those wounded feminine things, just needs that empowered masculine online internally. Inherently, feminine characteristic would be feeling and emotion, right? This is, again, not to say that men don't have feeling and emotion. They do. No. We all have masculine, feminine energy. But a lot of women, the skill set to be learned is how to hold themselves through emotion to alchemize it versus either A, repressing it, or B, completely losing themselves in it. So I just did a program on this called Alchemy, where we taught women how to somatically release emotions, which takes immense empowered masculine energy to go, okay, heart, I love you, I've got you, what do we need to feel and release through, and then do all the things and cry and dance and move it out and pull yourself through the other side. That's empowered feminine. Yeah,
she is very much expressive. It's not that she is this like cool cucumber type person. She can present that way because she is able to hold that, but she is
so secure in herself,
active. Internally, she is actively managing what she needs to feel happy and safe and set the boundaries and all the things. It's very different. This is, again, very different when you're in a wounded space than an empowered space, because you can be the cool cucumber when you're in a wounded space and you're just shut down, like not able to feel anything. You've shut it down because it's too scary, or it overwhelms you, or you don't know how to navigate it. Again, been there, done that. We can help. And there's an empowered state where she is going to present as very secure and calm, and you may not realize, like, oh, she may be feeling some kind of way, because she might not come out and say like, la, 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 la,
sure,
and spout off. She'll probably sit with it and say it in a way that you can hear.
She'll navigate it on her own, maybe for a bit,
yeah,
hold herself through it, and then come to the table.
Yeah, and speak calmly. It's a little less reactive from the empowered feminine.
Yeah, and empowered feminine too is also the wild and the free and the liberated and the playful. Again, because she can support herself. Empowered feminine can reveal her heart, even if it's vulnerable and messy, because she's like, if this doesn't go my way, I know I can hold myself through this. I can handle feeling rejected or sad or losing somebody. I'll be okay. I know I've got my own back. So then she can go through life liberated and really experiencing life, not holding any part of herself back. She can be playful and funny and silly and put herself out there and try new things and start new things and be expressed in her sexuality, because she knows she's safe and supported from the inside.
Yeah. There's like no upper limit to the things that can happen when you're in that space. And it typically plays out in a better way in my experience. So the things you're scared of being like too much or too wild or too, these things that we can experience as fear from a wounded space are actually like not the reality when you get to that place of feeling secure and just doing it. Like it still feels scary to do it, and I'm going to do it because I can catch myself on the other side.
Yeah, so true. we want to plant this seed with you too. There is a little archetype Courtney and I have noticed going around where women may feel like they're in their empowered feminine when they're really being the masculine, hyper independent boss lady, for lack of a better term. And so it can feel like I'm an empowered feminine, I'm taking care of business, I've got my crown, nobody meets my standards, I'm blazing through life. When really they're in a wounded masculine place because they're protecting themselves and not letting anybody in and afraid to reveal their hearts, and hyper independent because they're afraid of being vulnerable in commitment. Like, there's so much underneath it. It's not quite empowered energy, because also I will say this, a big part of empowered feminine energy, I believe, is the willingness to be vulnerable and reveal your hearts.
The tender part.
Yes, to be tender and sensitive and open-hearted. Would you add to that at all?
Oh, I have so many things.
We might do a whole episode on this woman.
Which word?
Because we were this.
Device. Yeah. Like, just. Okay. Which word wants to come out first? They're all tripping out of my mouth so right now. So this one, I think, is really quite different. This one will present quite differently than the child version that needs some parenting. I do a lot with reparenting, internal structure building. This one actually needs to learn to soften. Mm-hmm. She also needs the same amount of structure. That's the really funny thing. She needs the same amount of structure and the same amount of reparenting, because she doesn't innately trust that she'll be safe if she lets the guard down. Mm-hmm. She also doesn't trust that men are going to be so honored by her truth. Because she may have seen that, in this, like, this bad boss bitch culture, we kind of like hype ourselves up of like, yeah, I can do anything a man can do. And we can. Yeah. That's like, absolutely. You are capable of doing things. And when you step into partnership, he actually needs your tenderness. Mm-hmm. He's not going to get that without you. Mm-hmm. That is like the gift that the feminine brings to him, is the wild, the tender, the like this entire other category that he doesn't have access to, or won't. He does have access to it, but he won't access it just naturally without you. Mm-hmm. And that is, in my experience, such a beautiful thing to think when you bring that to the table, that you are actually enhancing his world too.
Yeah, we need to deep dive this whole woman, because we could go on and on forever. But I did want to plant that seed with you guys. That is easy to identify with, like, well, I'm definitely empowered feminine. And it's like, well, how comfortable are you with being vulnerable and revealing your heart and expressing yourself? Because that is empowered feminine. There's a lot of masculine women right now, just as there are lots of feminine men also. Yeah. And lots of the opposite. But there's a big theme with feminism, which we love, and we're both feminists.
Yeah. And it depends on what you want. Again, going back to, it depends on if you want the polarity to be that way.
Yes.
That's fine.
Say more about that.
I just coughed.
Oh, sorry. Do you want me to say more?
No, I will. It sounded judgmental when I heard it. Okay, anyways. If you are wanting, the point is to be more naturally where you are. Mm-hmm. There's a big pull, and we've talked about it in previous shows, where feminine energy work can be actually a little bit pulling women into their wounded feminine energy, in my view, because we think that we need to be more of something to be attractive to a man. And if you're trying to be more of something that isn't a natural expression of you, and this is different than trying new things on, new parts of yourself that you're re-meeting, that's a very different thing. This is like trying to be more feminine to attract a man. Like, I'm going to just use my feeling messages to get him to do X, Y, and Z, which I have been guilty of. Using your feeling messages, is the point of it is to express yourself, and that should feel good, to just express yourself, to scratch that itch. That's the feeling, instead of like needing him to do something with it. I just squirreled again. I forgot where I was going.
I love this. I love the squirrel. It's so, when we talk about diffuse awareness, you guys are going to love it.
Oh, gosh.
Go on.
No. I thought I was going to come back. Oh, being vulnerable. Yes. Revealing. Like, this is it. This is what it's like in real time.
Yeah.
Because there is part of me that would love to be polished, and that is the boss babe
Yeah.
archetype
Yeah.
is the very polished, like, I don't have any flaws. You won't find them. I meet all of my needs, and it's fine.
I meet all of my own needs. I
Yeah.
don't need a man.
Yeah.
We know. Do you want one?
Yeah. And if not, that's okay.
Or woman, whatever tickles your fancy.
Yeah, whatever kind of partnership you're wanting, just own it.
Right. Hyper independence
Yes.
can come out.
Oh, that's what you were asking about with the masculine women and feminine men.
Yeah.
This whole thing is a spectrum, and there are men that are more on the feminine end of the spectrum, and there's women who are on the more masculine end of the spectrum.
And it's natural to them.
That's natural to them. Yeah, and statistically, it is lower than what we think. And I'm not saying that. I'm not wanting to get into this argument with the LGBTQ community. I'm not at all saying that. I'm just saying that a lot of times those present as a result of a wound that they are actually wanting deeply to heal.
Yeah.
That's the type of person that I'm talking to, is the ones who are guarded because they don't trust the opposite person or the opposite energy.
Yeah, completely separate.
Can I clean that
issue.
up for me if I'm offended?
I know what you're saying. Courtney and I talk about this a lot behind the scenes because it's important to us to be inclusive, and it's important to us to honor our own experiences. And we both speak from cisgender heterosexual perspectives. But I think they're completely separate things. Somebody who's transgender, we're not speaking to that person in this moment when we say, you have a feminine man. Like, that's not at all where we're going. It's a completely separate thing of a person honoring who they are at their core.
Yeah.
Than
go for that.
A man who's been pulled into his feminine for a multitude of reasons, and maybe it's that he's dating a woman who's pulled into her masculine, and the only way to keep the polarity in the relationship is for him to subconsciously start displaying more feminine energy characteristics. And then we switch the polarity. In that scenario, his internal core is actually masculine, but he's showing up feminine for a multitude of reasons to keep his relationship alive. Which is, again, very different than a man who is transgender and or feels more innately like a woman, which we totally respect and honor. And
and that's not the experience that I speak from. So
exactly, we do talk about this so much behind the scenes,
and we want to be sensitive to that and stay in integrity. So
it's true.
Thanks. Clean it up if I offended anyone. So sorry, not my intention. Thanks for cleaning that up.
Anyone. I think we are clean on that.
Woo.
So we'll do a Boss Babe episode.
Yeah, I would love to do that.
So empowered feminine, radiant goddess queen, muse energy, playful, secure from the inside out. She lets herself be the full expression of who she is.
Yeah.
Because she's so secure.
Yeah.
And I think both of us do a really good job at that, at being our full expression. Because we're like, well, at the end of the day, if somebody doesn't like that, they're not my people, and it's okay, but I'm not going to live my life people-pleasing anymore. I'm going to go shine my light and say the things and do the things. I would also say empowered feminine has this, like, straight line to spirituality and downloads. She's very much the oracle. If you are in more of the spirituality community, they'll say the divine feminine is the oracle. And the divine receiver, and she bees in the world. She's appreciated for how she bees, not necessarily what she does or how she achieves. Although those things are wonderful, it's more her energy and her radiance that draws people in. What you had to say?
Such a good point, because that is it's so funny, because looking at in college doing, I can't think of the word right now. It's been a long day. Not anthropology, where you study different cultures.
Oh,
Anyways,
I know the word.
Learning about different religious practices. It's really interesting now that I study masculine and feminine dynamics to see that men have often been trying to create structures to allow their empowered feminine energy to be expressed.
Interesting.
Yeah, so it will show up in more like masculine, like structure. It will look like very methodical, but the end goal is to feel what I think feminine energy people feel all the time. Like this connection with divine eternal, like timelessness. Those feelings are when we are like in our safest space. Most fully ourself, most fully expressed. My arms are like waving in the air.
It's so expansive and expressed.
Thank you. That's the word, expansive. Yeah, and it takes men a little bit more to get there, but it takes us a little more to get there when we're in our masculine energy too, because it is kind of the top of that structure.
Yeah, it's a good point.
Yeah.
And we could do a whole episode on, maybe we do an EM panel on this, because men have their own battles and struggles with opening to their emotions and spirituality that, society has its own set of challenges for them.
Yeah, such a good point. Such a good point. But the feminine energy lives in the body. And this is what we mean, like, well, I think we are on the same page with this. When we talk about revealing your heart, revealing your feelings are often not like, and then she said, and then blah, blah, blah. Like, it can sound like that. And a lot of times in real time, it is a sensation that you're experiencing in your body, or a, like, a, like, very visceral experience. Maybe I'm more of a visceral person, but it is like a, emotions have a spot.
They do.
They like have a spot in my
It's a feeling
body.
in your body.
Yeah.
It's a sensation.
Yeah. So like saying that in real time is revealing. That is vulnerable to say, this feels uncomfortable right now. Yeah. I feel uncomfortable. That is a like boundary that you need to pay attention to. That is vulnerability. I think that's important to decipher between vulnerability and, this is again where it's an empowered sharing versus sharing where it's like, and then
spewing on people. Bleh. Take this, hold it, save me, fix me. I don't know what to do.
All these uncomfortable feelings are coming up right now and I don't know what to do with them, so I just want you to take them.
Right.
That kind of sharing is when men call us dramatic or emotional. Yeah, that's what they typically have experienced. But an empowered feminine energy, in my experience, when I speak from that space, men hear me.
Yeah.
They hear me and they know what to do with it. Yeah. I have not gotten that feedback since. Even if they disagree with what I'm experiencing or can't, like, understand how I got there, they honor it. Like, it just lands differently. Has that been your experience?
Yeah. Yeah. It was so foreign to me, again, because I shared with you my wounded pattern used to be passive aggressiveness and making someone dig for it because I didn't feel empowered enough to share for a number of reasons. But now if I'm in conversation with a partner and I'm noticing myself get like a gut twist or get nervous or whatever, some triggers coming up, it might be as simple as saying, I'm really feeling myself close down, and what would help me the most right now is if we went and sat on the couch and I could sit on your lap and reconnect to you. Can we pause for a minute and go reconnect? Like, here's how I'm feeling. It matters because I want us to win together. Here's how to win, right? Like, go back to episode 2, we set men up to win, I think. I think so.
Yeah.
Episode 2 is setting men up to win. So here's what I'm feeling. Let me reveal this to you in my heart. And here's how to win with me in this moment.
Yeah.
But that's something you have to practice and get really good. So you get really good at. This is just, we've given you almost an hour. It's about an hour, over an hour of explaining this. And yet,
there's more.
As you apply, but what about this? But what about that? Hey, it was this scenario. Courtney, what do I do? He said this, I said that. I don't know. I'm collapsing into myself. Like, it's such a walk.
Yeah.
This is not just, I know what it is now. It's a walk of these practices over time. And Courtney and I are both, hopefully that's not an overshare, both still more and more. How can we be more in this queen energy? Yeah.
And I love that I think what's kind of unique to us is our backgrounds are both in like somatic practice. And that is so pivotal. I think that's what we really resonate on, is like, I'm having this feeling in my body.
Yeah.
And I don't want it in here anymore. But if you know, again, part of our work in how I work and how you work too is learning how to feel the sensations, hold more space for them, like allow more of it, and then learn how to release it too. Like learn how to move that in your body. And that animation of the energy itself, of the emotion itself, is actually super attractive to men because they don't know how to do that. That is like unique to feminine energy.
Yeah, it's because we're the body. The feminine is typically the body, the masculine is the mind, the logic.
Yeah.
So your body as the feminine is always informing you of your alignment and misalignment and sticky things that are in your field to clean up. And your sensitivity in that is your superpower.
Yeah, and that's where having kind of one antenna going in and one going out, you get to kind of like decide, is it an internal thing that's going on that I need to pay attention to, or is it something in my environment that I need to move?
Yeah.
Because we're very sensitive bodies. Bodies are very, our gut is, oh, don't even get me started. Okay.
Don't even get me started.
Don't even get me started. Your gut is always on point.
Okay, so how does empowered feminine energy happen? I feel like we've actually covered
really
this.
got there, yeah.
Yeah.
The empowered masculine is how you get to the empowered feminine.
Yes, it's the gateway.
Yeah.
Just as getting to empowered masculine from wounded masculine, you have to integrate feminine. How do you recognize empowered feminine energy in yourself? I think it's just how you feel. You feel free, you feel liberated, you feel supported, you feel calm, at ease. And even when, bless you, even when stuff comes up, big emotions or triggers, you're still leading yourself and holding yourself. So even if I'm in practice in somatic release, releasing anxiety in my gut, I'm still in my empowered feminine. I am holding myself as I scream into pillows and cry and dance. That's part of the empowered feminine. She does have the full spectrum of human emotions. That's what we came for, full spectrum of human emotions. So if you're feeling supported and radiant and or playful, secure, to be the full expression of who you are, I think that would really be the marker. Would you agree?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. As you were saying that, I was like, that's interesting, because I do think I experience bigger emotions now.
Yes.
But
they're
not
safer.
But they're not overwhelming. I experience more and more of them across the spectrum and across the emotional spectrum, and more intensity, but I can hold them so they don't feel overwhelming. I used to shut them down because they were so overwhelming.
Yeah. And now you feel safe enough to feel them and experience them without collapsing.
Yeah.
So you're good.
Yeah.
And then life opens up more and more. The more that we can energetically hold, I'm going to get into business conversation, but the more that you can energetically hold, the more your business can expand, or your relationship, the depth of the relationship can expand.
Yeah. Yeah. So good.
So juicy.
Yeah. It's so funny because we both have like offshoots of this. The empowered feminine version of eating is my domain, and the empowered feminine version of business is her domain. That we came to relationships
so true
from that, and now we apply it to that.
Yeah.
I love that.
Feminine energy and pleasure in business is one of my favorite things to talk about, because we have such a wounded masculine way of doing business right now, and I am not here for it. Heck no. So anyway.
Yeah. Pivot.
Courtney, anything else you would like to add to this conversation?
I feel really good about this.
Me
I think
too.
we have given a lot of examples. I feel really proud of us for that, and vulnerable examples, like honest ways that we have learned these things. So yeah, I feel good.
Yeah, me too. Tell the people where they can find more from Queen Courtney Shand.
Yeah. So like I briefly mentioned, I do have a program going, a group for women, specifically for women this time, using my content from Arise, which is all about empowering the masculine energy within. This works really well for women who will find themselves in that wounded feminine that presents more as a child. The child energy, the overwhelm, the needing, the wanting to have things work out perfectly, that energy has a different flavor of navigating than the masculinized boss babe type energy, which obviously I can work with both. But this group is kind of forming for that particular woman. It's called Arise. If you want more information about it, you can DM me on Facebook or Instagram.
Instantgram.
And I will try to instantly... No, probably not instantly, but I will try to get back to you pretty quickly. Pretty good about that. It's at Courtney_Shand on Instagram.
Don't be distracted by our laughter. You want this program.
It is, I really am. This is like the pinnacle of my work thus far. I feel so deeply proud of it, and it has been my own personal experience in the form of a program. So yeah, super proud of that one. It'll be starting, I believe, in November. Really wanting to provide some support through the holidays in real time, because holidays bring up all of our relationship stuff. So if you get the question of, why are you not married already? This is for you. If you just have general things with your family when you go visit, this is also for you. That's the beauty of the work, is it's generalizable enough, but also tailored more for finding a, really healing the masculine, the way we see masculine energy around us and the way we engage with it internally. So that's what I have going on right now. And CourtneyShan.com is where you can find out more. What about you?
It's so true about holidays.
Oh.
I really feel like that's when the inner child suits up. She's like, I'm ready to play. Bring them out, bring them out. That's what she does.
Oh my gosh.
She's ready to let her freak flag fly.
Yeah, all the stuff comes up. So yeah, so I want to be there to add some layers of support. I do have a masterclass about generational trauma and self-care this Friday, which this will probably launch by then anyways, but that is also a domain that I love to talk about.
So good. So good.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
What do I have going on for you guys?
Yeah.
I have a program called Inside Out, the art and science of healthy relationships and magnetizing the divine masculine. And really the focus of this program is teaching you how to heal these inner feminine wounds to bring you to an empowered feminine place, and then learn how to interact and engage with the masculine. So in healthy, effective ways. So it's really about learning how masculine and feminine think, behave, and believe differently, and how to honor that and keep the polarity if you desire a polarized relationship. The feedback I get about this program is people always say it's their favorite program I've made, which is awesome. And they say it's so triggering because it helps you look at all these ways where you might be in a wounded space, which is ultimately keeping you from a really authentic, juicy, loving, intimate relationship, you know? So it causes a lot of reflection. We teach it on Zoom so that you can do Q&A and have support and keep it personal. That does start on the 22nd of November, 11/22. I'll put the link in the show notes for you guys, as we will for Courtney's program too.
Yes, thank you.
And if you want to jump into either one, if you're listening in real time, we would love to have you. And my Instagram is at buildingbree, BRI. My website is buildingbree.com. That's all the things.
Yeah.
That's all the things. If you would like our support and our love and our containers, we would love to have you. And if this episode helps you, please share it on your Instagram stories. Courtney and I get so excited.
So charged. Oh my gosh.
You tag us.
We just giggle together and we're like,
we send each other screenshots. I send her a voice note. Those of you that have my close friends and family, you send me your screenshots. I'm like, Courtney, they like our show.
They like their sports references.
Yeah, they like them. We love it when you're in on the inside jokes with us. So just be our friends, okay? And DM us if you have questions that you want answered on the show.
Yeah, we really, just putting it out there, because we would love to do some Q&A, like entire Q&A episodes. Because that's really how you learn, is like, how to apply this in my situation. That's great, Bree, that's what you learned, but like, that wasn't my situation.
Me with my background and my trauma?
Yeah. So we would love to do that.
Yeah. DM either one of us. We'll make a big long list and do an episode on it.
Anonymously. We'll keep your...
Of course.
Anonymity.
So anyway. So get in touch with us. We love you. We want to know you. We want to repost you. If you share on Instagram, we will definitely repost and thank you. And leave us a shining 5-star review if you feel aligned to that.
Please. We would love a review. We're talking from our empowered state here. Please leave us a review if you liked the content. It would feel just as good to us to get a review.
Yeah. Very well said.
It's because I have my crown on.
It's true. All right, you guys.
See you guys.
Thank you for listening, and we'll see you soon.